Just the building. It's about 5 after 6. We're going to get started with our meeting, and the folks that are here in the life verification can stand with the allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America. One nation. Okay, so we have Donna Alexander, Dave Lloyd, and here in the lifeguard station, the town manager is here. Those over, Dina, our audit liaison for the town is here, and then Bernie Krause, who's the other committee, the fourth committee member, is participating by Zoom. There's a slight, the next item is to adopt the agenda and making a slight modification because even though Bernie sent me the minutes today, because of the technical difficulties here in the life-saving station, they weren't able to print them to have them available. So other than the item E, 1E of the agenda, can I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Second. All in favor? Aye. Bernie?
Aye.
There you go. I couldn't see you. There you are. So there is nobody here at the life saving station as far as the public. Is there anybody? Is there anything? No. Okay. So we're public comments. It looks like we can go. So our number 2, the agenda items, is the presentation of the draft audit, and we have Dan Kinney and his team here on Zoom to take it away.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you.
Hi, Dan.
I'm Dan Kenny, partner with Mitchell and Titus, and with me, of course, is Venkana Alkunka. He's a senior manager with Mitchell and Titus, and we're here to present your April 30, 2025 audit for the town of Dewey Beach. We have 3 items to go over. Kate, I don't know if you can give access to Venkana to put the slides up, but if you could, that would be great. If not, I can tell you which ones to do.
Did she already try? She should be able. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Did he already try to share screen?
Oh.
Yeah, you should be good to go.
Okay, great. All right, so this is our presentation. We're going to go through the presentation, and then we're going to go through the management letter. And then the last item we'll go through will be the actual report itself. So let's start with the presentation. Then kind of thank you. If you could go to the table of contents, audit highlights is fine. Okay, so this, of course, indicates that we've audited the entity as of and for the year ended March 31, 2025. The audit, of course, was done in accordance with 2 standards, generally accepted auditing standards and also government auditing standards. We've issued a management letter, and as you know, we assist with the preparation of the financial statements. In terms of the status, we have substantially completed the audit. We're currently anticipating issuing an unmodified opinion as it relates to the audit. We've received outstanding communication with Mr. Bill Zolper, Ms. Sheena Hall, and Ms. Allison Howe throughout the audit. And if you go to the next slide, this is where it talks about, here's where we're open. So today is August 13th. Right now we're waiting for the legal letter confirmations. the rep letter from management, subsequent event procedures, and then of course the final review. So the legal letter confirmations, what we have to do is we get those back prior to the date of issuance. So from what we understand, excuse me, you guys, we're gonna issue this in September, at a later meeting. So we don't get the legal letter now. We have to wait until we get those, maybe a week before, 2 weeks earlier, because you have to go all the way up through the end of field work. And then, of course, the rep letter's the same thing. So, so we'll have to wait there. Regarding the items under recorded, unrecorded misstatements. So we made certain reclassification journal entries. We made GASB journal entries for the conversions. And that's with the preparation of the town's financial. Of course, they were agreed to by management. And there was just one past adjustment related to compensated absences of approximately 63,000. We didn't have to record that, but quote unquote, it's not material. And then the non-attest service, that talks about the fact that, we are assisting you with preparing the financial statement. And go to the next slide. All these items kind of go through what we do in our procedures, on revenue and receivables, cash and cash equivalents, and those areas we didn't have any exceptions. Under investments, we're going to perform walkthrough of investment procedures, confirm. Under capital assets, we're going to test all, a lot of your fixed asset additions. We're going to recalculate depreciation. No issues there with respect to those two items. Liability accounts, we can go one before. So under the payables, we do a search for unrecorded liabilities. Under the pension plan, we get the information from the actuary and some of the analysis on the net pension liability. We look through that. And then under expenses, there are some substantive procedures performed with respect to expenses. Payroll, of course, we're going to walk through your procedure on how you guys handle payroll and perform calculations there. And in all these areas, there were not any significant exceptions. All right. And I don't know, Bernie probably knows this. I got a lot of feedback, and so does Van Connell. So if we seem a bit distracted, it's because of the feedback. But it's okay. We can hear you, so we'll just keep going. Financial close process. There were no significant exceptions noted. Net position fund balance. No significant exceptions noted there. Go to the next page. So this goes over the required communications, and it goes for about 3 or 4 pages. It talks about, our plan, scope, and timing of the audit. That was consistent with our engagement letter. We have complied with all the ethical requirements regarding independence. Under accounting policies, there were no significant changes in your accounting policies in 2025. If you go to the next page, this is where it talks about, the estimates. Once again, you have estimates on depreciation, on your useful life of your capital assets, and then you also have estimates regarding your net pension liability. And we did not identify any actual or suspected instances of fraud. And next page. No significant difficulties encountered performing the audit. We already talked about the entries that were made. There were no significant or unusual transactions. Go to the next page. No disagreements with management. Once again, we talked about the rep letter. We'll get that, later on in September when we're ready to issue. There were no consultations with other accountants under any issues, and there were no other significant matters, findings, or issues. All right, and we have complied with, there were no instances of non-compliance with laws and regs. We already talked about that. And substantial doubt on the entity's ability to continue as a going concern. No issues there. No problems with respect to whether or not the entity can continue as a going concern. And then these 3 GASBs are out there for the future, talking about certain risk disclosures. It talks about constraints. And then next year, 103 and 104, this is where they're talking about some financial reporting model improvements. And in your MD&A, there are certain things that are going to be required, slightly different than what you have with respect to what is disclosed in your financial statement. And then on capital assets, that's more aligned. They talk about some of the reclassifications within infrastructure and some other items that have to be noted there. Okay, moving on to the management letter. And I'm sorry, any questions on those slides?
No, Dan, thank you.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so bear with me. We'll go through these two things, and then you guys can ask all kinds of questions, and we'll be happy to answer those. And if we don't know the answer, of course, we'll get back to you, and or management will get back to you. Okay, so regarding the management letter, we have 3 recommendations. And one item is, of course, relating to the budget. You guys have heard me speak about the GFOA, that's the Government Finance Officers Association. And they have a program where you can submit your budget, and it's called the Distinguished Budget Presentation Awards. You submit your budget, and then you get it back, and they give you 1 million comments, and you either get a certificate of achievement in distinguished budget reporting, or they say, hey, you got to do a couple things and then, try again next year. So our recommendation is not necessarily to submit it, because it is a fair amount of work to do that. But we thought, as the town has evolved and grown, and, we have given comments over, the past 2 years, we're always trying to, come up with things that could assist the town in improving. And based on prior meetings and some things that I've heard, this might be something that you want to do. If you go to the next page, we give a link. And what we're recommending is there's actually a checklist that you can go through, read it, and it talks about all the different elements that would, once again, help you qualify to receive this award, this distinguished award, in terms of your budget presentation. So it's something that we thought that, hey, you guys, as you're growing and evolving, you might want to consider doing that. All right, the next item, authorization and segregation of duties, is during the year we noted that the bank recs and the journal entries is just prepared by one person. And of course, we recommend that another person separate from the preparer, of course, should review and approve the bank recs and the journal entries to maintain effective internal control. And, we understand the town isn't large, you only have X amount of people. So, you'll have to think about, okay, how do we segregate the authorization and the recording and the custody function in certain aspects of your operations, so that we can, maintain an internal control to mitigate any risk there. So this particular item, we thought, all right, you can definitely find folks, in the department that have the skills to be able to help assist and review those 2 particular items. All right, and then under IT developments, 2 items there. So you guys used to rely on Buddy Punch Time Clock, and then in FY26, you've transitioned to this Time Clock Plus for the payroll, workforce payroll management. And you're also discussing, decommissioning QuickBooks and then going to Edmunds GovTech. So 2 things. So on the TCP, you're in the process of implementing it. We recommend that whenever you have these type of things, you always want to take advantage of the feedback that you get. Obviously, a lot's going to be positive, some can be negative, but you can really learn from a post-implementation review. You want to formalize it. You want to be as transparent as possible as to, hey, what went well, what went wrong, what can be better. And then, of course, you can get back to the vendor and see whether or not they can assist you with it. And these are all the different points that we really feel like are really, really important to make sure you cover in the post-implementation review. All right, and then for Edmunds, GovTech, so that's something you're going to be doing, right? So whenever you haven't, system change, all that, I'm sure you're going to run parallel systems and do all that great stuff. But, once again, you want to get committees involved to make sure independent people are looking at it, giving the best advice. And of course, you want to have buy-in from everyone, because once you change systems, you want to make sure it's effective and efficient. And the best way to do it is to get buy-in from folks. And there's a lot of talented people, of course, on this committee here and other folks that we believe could really help with this. All right, so that's those recommendations. If you scroll down, Venkana. So what we always do is sort of put in the prior year comments. There were a couple comments that was in the prior year's trial balances. If you recall, we talked about getting free trial balances. That was resolved. We were able to get that. Fixed assets, had some issues there. That was resolved. Policies and procedure manual, they finished that. And then there was some older IT comments that I think on an IT handbook, we received that as well. Now, on fund balance. So fund balance is a, you guys have heard me say that I always applaud you guys for having a fund balance policy. Great that you have it. So one thing we thought of with respect to your policy in your rainy day fund is great that you have it, you got it set up. But what you want to do is also look at, okay, how are we gonna utilize it? What would happen if, okay, we want to get a withdrawal? Do you have anything defined in there? So when you look at some of the best practices and some of the things they recommend, they want you to, define what an emergency would be. So how are you going to actually, what would define an emergency so that you guys would, withdraw funds from your rainy day fund? They talk about, maybe considering if there's a revenue shortfall, you put that in your policy that, hey, that defines something that then we can withdraw from the rainy day fund. They also discuss the limitation on the size of the withdrawal. So, if you have a couple of these items, you have an emergency or a revenue shortfall or something catastrophic that happens or something that you're considering, you also might want to consider limiting the size of the withdrawal. And then let's say you go ahead and utilize your rainy day fund. You're actually, doing it, you're utilizing that particular item. Well, how are you going to then replenish the rainy day fund? So these are all elements that luckily you haven't had to utilize if you just got your rainy day fund, I don't know, a year or two ago or so. So, this is something that you want to consider, and of course you want to look at. And you always want to avoid any overly restrictive rules in terms of how you can withdraw money. So there's, it'll be subject to debate, and I'm sure you guys will have a lot of dialogue with it, but we think it's something that you still, should start thinking about and considering. But once again, it's great that you do have the rainy day fund. Of course, it's, it's a crucial tool for any governments, to manage that financial uncertainty that's out there. All right, any questions on the management ladder? No?
Yeah, Bernie, any questions? Say no. Okay.
No? Okay. All right.
No, I'm good. I forgot I
You're
had
good? Okay.
to unmute.
And Commissioner, I know you're on there. Do you have any questions? Oh, you're still on mute.
Okay. I can't hear anything.
Nope, I think you're good to.
Okay, sorry. All right. Okay, so let's go to the financial statements. All right, so let's go to the opinion, Venkana. Thank you. So this is the opinion where it talks about, well, what we've audited. In our opinion, the financial statements, they're fairly presented for the period. Talks about the basis of our opinion, our responsibility. That goes into the next page. All the elements of what we have to look at, about the RSI information, what we do there, about the supplementary, what we do there. And then, because the audit is done in accordance with the government auditing standards, we issue that internal control report. And we don't have to go through it, but in the back, it has an area where it's called internal control of your financial reporting and compliance with laws and regs. And in your financial statements, it says that there are no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies noted. And then under the non-compliance with laws and regs, it says there are no instances of non-compliance noted. Okay. All right. So why don't we go to let's go through the statement and I'll just run through that. So your statement, your MD&A, it goes from pages 5 to 11. So I don't want to, I'm not going to go through that, but yep, 5 to 11, perfect. And then you go to your statement of net position. And here, just a couple of things to point out. Your relatively small number, your net pension liability is 104,898. Last year it was 81,393. And remember, this number, and it's described in the statement, which I'll get to. This is an estimate. It's a long-term liability, so it's something that you don't have to assign, commit, or anything in your fund balance, because remember, your fund balance is your fund balance in your general fund, right? So your rainy day and all that kind of things, all your commitments, that's all short-term in nature. If you guys recall, Bill remembers, and he loved it, the governmental presentation that I did where I described all the differences in the statement and why and things like that. So net pension liability is something you don't have to put as committed or assigned or anything like that, because that's in your general fund. All right, so moving on to the next page. If you let's go to page 14, because I like 14. This is your general fund, right? So general fund, and of course your beach replenishment fund, where it talks about all your different fund balances and all the different things, what's restricted, what's committed, what's assigned, and then specifically those items are also described on page 36. So let's just stay on this page. I don't want to go anywhere, but on this page, just to point out, you can see that your rainy day fund, you have that number in there. It's 2,899,450, and once again, that's approximately 50% of your FY26 operating expenses. So that's how that number is calculated. And then your unassigned number is 2169019. Sorry for the dog. 2169019, and that number, of course, in your fund balance rainy day policy, you also have something in there that you got to hit the 50%, and then it's 15% after that. You got to have a minimum there. So that 15% number is 869,000. So you actually have 2.1, let's say 2170 approximately, minus your 869,000. That's like a 15% number. So you actually have about $1.3 million that you can then assign to some of these other items. Whether you want to put some more in public safety, town hall, capital improvements, whatever you want. You have an additional amount that you can go ahead and assign that, and you'll still be within your policy of the 15% in excess of the rainy day for unassigned. All right, and I know that's a lot of numbers that I just went through. Any questions on that? Because I'll be more than happy to talk about anything related to that.
Hey, Dan, that's really up to the commissioner, as you said, to decide when that $1.3 million should go, correct?
I'm sorry, can you say it again?
That's really up to the commissioners where the 1.2 or $1.3 million should be assigned, correct?
Yeah, well, great question, sir. So if you look on page 36 of your statement, it gives you a definition of, really how you want to come up with the assignments, right? So technically, okay, I'm going to say technically speaking, yeah, then kind of thanks. Go ahead and pull that. So we'll just show the group, what it is. Yeah, page 36. So assigned fund balance. Yeah, so let me see here. So under assignments, you can hold on, let me see if I can find something else that makes it a little easier to understand. Okay, sorry. Go to page 25, Montana. So in your accounting policies, Bill, on page 25, anything that's assigned, and this is per the accounting literature, okay? Amounts that are designated by the council or management with the intent to be used for a specific purpose. So technically, management can do it, but you know, you guys have always had council do it, so that's fine.
Thank you.
Yep, okay. All right, okay, so any other questions on that fund balance? And I just want to make sure I'm answering. Oh, and let's say, then kind of go back to page 14. Let's say somebody wants to look at it and say, hey, the rainy day fund, 2.899450, and the unassigned, and remember, you're unassigned, you guys have a policy that says, hey, we got to have at least 15%. Well, if you wanted to, on your rainy day, you could say rainy day fund, and then on the back of your statement on page 36, you can expand your definition of that. And if you wanted to add some other language there on the 15% to include it there, you know, you can. But what I do like about your policy is where it talks about the 15%, it's saying you have to have a minimum, right? But you can add anything else to your rainy day fund based on your policy. You know, you guys come up with the words for your policy and then you adjust accordingly. So once again, if you go back to your management letter comment, it's, hey, always revisit it, look at it as things change. You know, you want to make changes accordingly. And I can certainly help you guys with that if needed. All right, so hold on, let me see if there's any other things. Okay, so just to clear up any questions. So if under the pension liability, once again, I talked about it, net pension liability, you know, that number doesn't go in fund balance at all. Because remember, fund balance is all current and net pension liability is a long-term item. So that's why you don't see that there. Okay, and then in terms of if there's any questions regarding anything else, I'll be more than happy to answer it. But yeah, that's all we have.
Any questions, guys? Bernie, any questions?
No, I'm good. That was good presentation.
Okay.
Commissioner, any questions?
No questions. The connection is really bad. I was trying to take the best notes that I can. I assume that when it's ready, we will invite this presentation to be given to council as a whole as well.
On the 26th of September.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Mr. Zolper, let me ask you a question. Do you plan on your assignment of fund balance and your unassigned, how, you know, we you know, the 15% number, it's obviously higher than the 15% number. Do you anticipate making changes to these particular numbers that are in there, meaning you're gonna say, hey, we want to add more to this, and this, and therefore we would make changes to the statement and send that back out to you and Julie, you and Julie?
Yeah, I don't foresee us doing that, Danny.
Okay, all right, that's good. That makes it easy. Thank you. All right. Very
Thank
good.
you, Pam.
All right, well, sorry, because our connection is bad, as Elizabeth pointed it out. It's a little tough. So,
But if no one has any questions, we'll let you guys go because the connection is bad, and we'll just talk amongst the committee.
okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
All right.
Thank you, Danny.
Have a nice evening.
speak up. Bernie, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, okay, so we're at the point where we discuss and possibly vote to recommend the acceptance of the draft audit, excuse me, to the town council. Obviously, there are bills, as Dan mentioned, at the beginning of the presentation, that there are some things, the management letter, some things, and I know we've done this in the past, where we have accepted the draft audit with the caveat that I, as the chairperson, would have the right to okay those other things. Right, that's what we've done in the past. Just so we don't have to have another meeting prior to the September 26th. 26th. I think it's on that meeting.
Well, it's because the mayor changed it today.
Oh,
You were right, I changed it today.
okay. So, anyway, Bruce, do you have any comments about the audit or any concerns?
No, because I can barely hear you though. You're breaking up badly.
I'm sorry. I know that it's bad. Do you guys have any comments or concerns?
I just have one.
Yes.
I just thank Sheena for all.
Yes.
And Allison, they did an excellent job. We're going to work in the different next year, but they did a great job this year.
Yes, thank you,
They
Sheena.
didn't forget yourself today.
Yes, yes, maybe for our new people that we will be. So if there's no more comments, if I could get a motion to accept the audit with the caveat that as chairperson, I would have the right to further discuss prior to presentation to the commissioners. Do I have a motion?
Yes. Motion to.
Do I have a second? I know, Bernie, it's hard for you to hear, but we have a motion to accept. Do you all in favor?
Yes, I do. I accept.
Okay, thank you. Since there's nobody else here, we don't have any additional comments. So I am going to ask for a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you for your.
Aye.
Thank you, Bernie.
Take care, guys.
Bye, all.
Hi. I think I'm the only one.